Aquarius, hello, and welcome to your winter 2024 into 2025 shapeshift reading. We're looking at the shape you're shifting out of, the shape you're shifting into, and what that shapeshift looks and feels like for the winter season. I'm Andy, I'm your reader, and I'm joined today by the Wild Chorus Oracle deck by Abacus Corvus. Let's get into your shapeshift. This reading is meant to carry you through the entire winter season. So from the end of December at the winter solstice into March at the spring equinox. You should watch the reading when it drops in the winter. Watch it again midway through the season once you've actually lived through your shift experience a little bit. You'll have a lot more to bring to the reading and it will probably speak to you a lot more specifically. And then if you watch it again at the end of the season, you get that hindsight magic where you get to look back at how you shifted through the season and connect the dots, and it can be a surreal experience. So I recommend watching this reading thrice. Okay, Aquarius, what's your shapeshift for the winter? Whoa, okay. Okay, huh. Let's look at it together. So we have make your voice be heard. May your voice be heard. Shifting into you belong. Through tend the edges. Okay. So you're shifting into a sense of greater belonging by making your voice heard, or making sure that your voice is heard in some way, or like being listened to, people around you listening to you, and you also like voicing your presence. It's that exchange of voicing your presence and then feeling heard that cultivates that sense of belonging that you're shifting into through this season. And then we see you, looks like you and other people, because of the two blue jays, tending to the edges. So what exactly does that look like for you? We'll have to get into it. Tend to the edges feels like bringing your attention to things that are usually on the periphery. Okay, really interesting. So maybe that's because we have like, may your voice be heard, addressing things in your connections, in your relationships with others that you don't normally look at, or that you don't like, cleaning up these like little details, tending to the edges. It also makes me think of like understanding your boundaries, because edges are a boundary essentially. They're like the line between you and something else, or the line that separates experiences. So by tending to those edges, I'm like imagining tending to the tree line of a property. By tending to those edges, you get to know or see or sense what's right beyond, while also further defining where you are. And that happens when you are able to specifically communicate your bounds, like communicating what your edges are. And then that creates a better sense of connection and belonging with the people and the places and the environments that you find yourself in, the society. Okay, Let's read a little bit from the guidebook so that we understand this a little bit better. I want to actually start with tend to the edges because it seems to be the most mysterious. Tend the edges. Tend the edges. Okay. Boundaries. Great. Yeah. Edge magic. Attention to detail. All right. So we were getting it for sure. Like very beautiful. Actually, a lot of Virgo energy coming through there. Two blue jays fuss with a fiddlehead fern, one perhaps trying to eat the tight coil while the other holds only the stem. Here at the edge of daytime as it becomes night. Okay, so we're in like a shoulder season, which is interesting because at the winter solstice, when this reading begins for you, we are at that edge. We're at the darkest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, and we're at that edge where like the light starts to return. And then at the spring equinox, we're at an edge. So that's really interesting. Tending to the edges is like recognizing the in-between spaces. Maybe even like seasonally. Okay. Here at the edge, or even like within a day, attending to the sunrise and the sunset, the transition between day and night, between experiences or places or relationships. I don't know. Okay. Here at the edge of daytime as it becomes night, at the edge of winter as it becomes spring. Okay, there we go. We are called to notice our own edges and the edges that surround us. An edge is a magic place where one thing becomes another. It is where you becomes not you. Forest becomes prairie, shore becomes the sea. Edges foster complexity, uniqueness, communication, and variety. And it makes me think of foxes, the way that they dwell on those edge spaces and find like a really typically rich diet there because there's so much aliveness in those edge spaces. Are these blue jays wrestling over one fiddlehead when there are plenty behind them? Is one assisting the other? Have either of them simply spaced out and stopped paying attention? This card asks you to notice where you may be losing clarity and distinction. Have you lost touch with your own edges and what's happening within them? There may be a boundary to set, a conflict to face. Mars retrograde from December to February. Opposite your sign, okay, in Leo. Or a connection to tend to. This card can turn up when what you are considering will require some sort of negotiation, some sort of like boundary negotiation or like edge negotiation of each other's edges. Be ready to focus your energy and care in the service of right relationship and honoring difference, but yeah, maybe distance. On a mundane level, this card may be a reminder to put on lotion or trim your hair or advocate for your fair share of something. Okay, so now we're starting to get into may your voice be heard. Advocating for something like, okay, hey, when we do this, this is actually what I would prefer, or this is actually a boundary for me. And maybe you've never really expressed that fully, or maybe this is a chance for you to express that fully in order to feel a greater sense of like, you are of belonging, of like, you are allowed to speak your edges. And I love that even in the You Belong card, we have a very clearly defined perimeter. And it's like, when you have that clear perimeter, then you know where you belong. Okay, I belong inside of this space. defining those edges for yourself helps you feel safe and connected and loved and protected. And like you belong within something very clearly. So you're defining something, some sort of relational boundary, some sort of spatial and it may require that you advocate for yourself. Even if it seems like you're mincing, even if it seems like you're getting fussy about details, that's how you more like clearly carve out those edges of definition that then actually make everyone feel like safe and feel this sense of belonging, because then everyone's on the same page about where the edge is. Sharpen your focus, clarify your needs and wants. Know what you're reaching for and why. Listen for what is and what is not your voice. So there may be a need to sort of differentiate yourself from others in this time. Discern where limits or protection are needed. Redraw your inner map with a reminder that you are here. You know, Aquarius, your fall shift reading was called Next Level Collab, like a next level of collaborating with others, of being in connection and being in relationship with others. And I think this reading is really getting into the nitty-gritty of that. Like the next level of collaboration is communication, communicating your edges, your boundaries, and helping to very specifically and with detail and attention define parameters. Ultimately in service of greater connection and sense of safety and belonging. Okay, nice. Aquarius, it is your birthday season. I'm going to continue to pull cards now. We're going to create a really nice big spread to extrapolate on this and get the details. But it's your birthday, so I want to give you a little treat right here and now. So I'm going to continue this reading with Isabella Rotman's This Might Hurt tarot deck, as well as the companion This Might Help oracle deck. Okay, so let's start by drawing cards for This Might Hurt and This Might Help for you this winter season. Okay, This Might Hurt, Aquarius. Yeah, totally. Three of Swords and the Lovers. I mean, like, this is relational. Hello, here we are. Talking about where things have hurt, where you have felt like your boundaries have been crossed, or where you experience pain in your connections with the people that you are connected to. That is a really, yes, it might hurt to express that, to make that be known, to say, hey, listen, when you did this or when this happened, I felt this, it hurt me in this way, or it brought up something painful for me like this. So there needs to be this sort of like expressing of hurt so that this renegotiation of boundaries can happen. And ultimately, again, so that you can come closer together. But it does require some like nakedness, some stripping down to the rawness, and yes, also expressing pain, expressing where there has been injury or woundedness, or even if those things are past, like, hey, this past wound keeps coming up for me in our connection, and I need to talk about it so that we can get real. I mean, these two naked people, like, let's get real about this so that we know how to move forward. I also Can't ignore that this is a Garden of Eden moment. And the Garden of Eden, that like biblical myth, is this sort of space where the humans belong with clear parameters about where they can and cannot go within that space. Like, this is the Garden of Eden and that is outside of that. And there are parameters within this. So I just think that there is something about like defining the edges of like, this is our garden, the garden of our Eden, of our relationship. And these are the rules within it, or these are the like guidelines that prevent harm within that space. And this might be a relationship, but this could also be like a community space that you're involved in creating, or like even an online space, like boundaries within the online space and your connections there. Like, you know, who knows? Take it how it resonates. And obviously we'll get into it more now. But we gotta get what might help. Okay, so that might hurt, but this might help for Aquarius this winter. What might help? Oh, interesting. The hooded falcon. And I'm pretty sure this is, yeah, it's Earth. This card talks about like discipline. Let's read it for your birthday. Okay, self-discipline and control. Yeah, like we're talking about edges and we're talking about parameters and staying within those parameters, and the control, the discipline, the attention that is required to tend those edges together, not just one person doing that. Okay, interesting. It's reminding me of something here, Aquarius. You might think that it's only your responsibility to tend to your own boundaries or to your own edges. And while in some sense that is true, if you are to be in deep, intimate relationship with other people, friendship, romantic, family, work, what have you, if you were to be in close connection with others, sharing, it is actually your responsibility to not like secretly, privately tend to your own edges, but to involve the other person in that space, because otherwise they won't know where it is, and that's not fair. So you need to make your voice heard, to communicate specifically, so that both of you or everyone involved in the connection can get involved and hold a piece of that responsibility of tending to those edges, so in order to prevent harm, so that it's not just you going in and cleaning up the mess everybody keeps making of your boundaries without them actually knowing where your boundaries are. That's not fair. Okay, interesting. Let's look at the hooded. I thought about that because of the hooded falcon, like the falcon can't see. So you need to be super clear. All right, let's look at this. So it's talking about willpower, this hooded falcon, self-discipline, intellect. It may appear that the intellect and spirit are repressed, but by restraining the gifts, she is able to direct them effectively. So while talking about like edges and boundaries and parameters might seem repressive or restrictive, it actually helps further foster creativity and connection, because it helps to like structure and direct things. Okay. And like she's able to direct them effectively. She's successful because she focuses, plans, and persists. She's committed and determined, and discipline has allowed her to advance far. Focus your gifts, make a plan, persevere, and you will succeed. Nice. Make a plan. Define the edges. Communicate your needs. and you will succeed. Okay. Very nice first half of this reading. So if you want to get into this with me now, click the link in the description below, and that will take you to the shifting space where we will investigate these readings together as a community throughout the winter season. We will track the transits as they happen in real time. We will discuss them on a Discord channel. We'll watch the readings together. We'll pull cards for each other. If that sounds like the kind of space you're into, I hope to see you there, and happy birthday, Aquarius. Oh, and if you want a birthday reading with me to look at the tarot and astrology for the wheel of your year, click the link in the description to go to my website, read all about it. You know where to find me. All right. Aquarius. Whoa. Let's get into this now. Okay, we're talking about avoidance and connection already. All right. Maybe it goes like this. So there's like everybody celebrating and being super free together and like dancing, and there's like a freedom, there's a party kind of vibe with the Three of Cups. And then there's this, is that the Seven of Swords? Yeah, this person is sort of like running away from that, escaping that, avoiding that. We're getting misanthrope. We're getting a little bit of like, you know, misanthropic, like hermit vibe, and a little bit of like feeling antisocial, feeling like you want to run away from the party. And then it's making me think like, okay, Aquarius, when you feel like you want to run away from or isolate or escape from connection, from the group experience, or from even like intimate connections one-on-one with other people, when you feel like you need to get out of there or need to escape, this reading would suggest that the edges, your edges, maybe are not being tended to. And there's sort of this vibe that like they don't even know that you're gone, or like they don't even know why you left. There's a disconnect. So I guess here we're seeing the fall season. They're all dancing together in the pumpkin patch. And then here in winter, you're sort of retreating. You're like, everyone's partying in the cabin and like having a good time, and you're like getting out of there. And there's so, why, when you feel like you're distancing or sort of dissociating or disconnecting from others, like what is that? What do you need to, what are you escaping from? Okay, interesting. Keep pulling. Three of Wands suddenly feels like, okay, getting back to your alone space where you can sort of like look out at the larger horizon line, like the bigger expanse, and get some perspective, get back maybe into your own private activities. We see like journaling or writing. Sometimes the Three of Wands can talk about like vision boarding or like planning. It's actually attending to the details, I'm realizing. This is an act of tending the edges, is like, okay, hold on. I sort of felt like I needed to run from our connection in that moment. Be it one-on-one or like a group thing. I felt like I needed to escape from that moment. Let me go off by myself and kind of figure that out. You know, like let me first tend my own edges so I can be like, okay, why did I feel that way? Let me write it out. Let me journal. Let me go through my own process in my own space to understand this a little bit better and to get some perspective. Yeah. Three of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck, so that then like I can come back to the table with clear instructions for how we can work together, for how this can work, how we can collaborate and like build what we're trying to build together. I like that we're getting sort of a step-by-step story. Okay, what else? The world. Oh my gosh, right underneath of you belong, which is talking about, which is showing this like clearly defined circle with the connections that all sort of go to you here, your sense of belonging right at the center of it. And then we have this clearly defined circle and you here like connected to those parameters. And that's accomplishing that sense of like safety and security and belonging and like wholeness there in the center of that boundary, of those edges that are very clearly defined, held, and tended to. Whoa. Okay. Oh, nice. Four of Swords and Ten of Pentacles sort of gives us this just very simple picture of like needing to sleep on it or needing to rest. Again, we're seeing someone retreating into their own rest space or thinking space or meditation space so that they can then get back to the party. With the Ten of Pentacles and like be with family. So this is so much about negotiation. Yeah, okay. Four of Wands on the bottom of the deck. Interesting, because there are still boundaries here. I love too that the Four of Wands is a card of like happy home, and actually beautifully it is a card of belonging. So is the Ten of Pentacles. Feeling like I belong in my family, feeling like I belong with these folks, my chosen family even. And here too, like this family of bunnies all together under this threshold, under this like celebratory archway, symbolizing their like relational space together. But what's cool is we go from this like very clearly defined space of self, of differentiation with the world, which is the sense of like personal wholeness, personal fullness. The world is the final card in the major arcana of the tarot. So it's this like sense of completeness, completion and accomplishment of defining the self. Fully defined, so that then you can go into these spaces with others, because I guess it's saying that belonging to some degree starts with you. Like, hold on, like, do you feel like you belong inherently within yourself? Do you belong with yourself? And then what are your edges of self in the context of being with others? And it's like, once that is more clearly defined for you, I think you'll be able to be much more at ease in your gatherings, in your one-on-one and like family or friend connections. And with the Four of Wands, there's this nice, like, while there is a structure present here, it's not rigid. It's actually pretty open, pretty free. And so I think like it's getting back to that idea that while defining the parameters may seem repressive, it actually helps focus the mind so that everyone in the group is actually, it's like the hood is, see how it's iridescent? Like that boundary, that parameter is actually the magic here. And that's what helps the falcon understand the game. So then it can then fly free and return in like a way that is sort of like shared, that fosters relationship, connection, and shared understanding with whoever is holding the falcon. It's kind of like crate training with a puppy. It's like, oh, don't put her in her cage. She needs that space. She needs that space to feel like that is her space and hers alone. Everything else in the house is everybody else's and is like this human world that she finds herself in. But that cage space is hers, you know? And it's like, if you can define that kind of space for yourself, I think there's a lot more freedom then to be found in the relational space. Parameters are still very much there. They're just a little freer. The wind can kind of blow through them. And so it's not restriction. It's just tending the edges. It's just defining the space to foster a greater sense of belonging and connection, which does require that you make your voice heard. You can't just run off into the night and expect everyone to chase you down and say, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? What happened? You know, it's like you have to make your voice heard. You have to communicate like, hey, I get really overwhelmed in these kinds of spaces, or when this happens, and it would be better for me if blah, 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 blah. And then you have to honor those boundaries just as much. You are just as responsible for upholding that agreement with yourself as everyone else is responsible for maintaining that agreement with you together. I mean, like, wow, this might be really resonant around the holidays for folks, like going home and visiting family and all of that. What are your needs going into that situation? What are your boundaries? Can you communicate them in a way that your voice can be heard? Can you enforce your own boundaries in that environment? But I like the cards that are coming out under here. Maybe we'll just look at them together. The cards that are coming out under Tend the Edges is Three of Wands, Three of Pentacles. So we have this like interesting, well, we have a lot of threes. Oh, there's a lot of repetition actually. Look at that. Okay. Under May Your Voice Be Heard, we have Three of Swords, Three of Cups. So this sort of like, it's clear that there is some sort of wound, harm, pain, or injury when it comes to that you experience when it comes to your close connections with others, that makes you feel like you want to run away with the Seven of Swords, or that you need to like steal away, or like steal your time back, or that something's being stolen from you maybe. So whatever that is. And then under Tend the Edges, we have Three of Wands, Three of Pentacles. So the threes are actually continuing to tell the story of the solution here, of the experience to shift through in order to get to belonging, which is essentially getting alone and like really making a plan, getting clear about what you need and making a plan for how to make that vision happen, and then coming together, Three of Pentacles, with your pals, with your close collaborations, and saying, hey, here's what I need to make this work, and here's my vision. Here's what I would like to see happen. What do you think? And then they all go, okay, great. Like, can we all get a copy of the script? Can we all get a copy of the blueprints? You hand that out and then everyone's on the same page, and you can work together then and build together from there, tending the edges together. And then we see under belonging, 4 of Swords, 4 of Wands. Again, like you retreating and taking your space when you need to, resting your body when you need to, like going off and having a think about things and taking the space and time to think and mull it over, so that then you can come back together and feel freer and more connected in your relationships with your family and friends and lovers. Okay, it's actually like a pretty straightforward reading. All right, so let's go back to the This Might Help deck, and I actually want to see what help is being given to you behind the scenes, like from the unseen hands. If you can imagine them like holding the space of this reading, like what help is happening in that unseen space for you. The Steed. Okay, interesting. AKA the Chariot, but we have this like badass motorcycle lighting the way forward. Okay, the Steed is here to help you. Your faithful steed. What else? Psst, too much. What else? The Magician's Wand. Well, to me, there's something about like, sorry, rude. There's something about illumination, because the headlight is showing the way forward, and then also there's like this candle in the dark. But there's also something about action, because the motorcycle is moving things forward. There's action, there's momentum, there's forward movement. And then the Magician's Wand is sort of here to be like, okay, we have everything we need to create, to make something happen. So I think there's actually like, it seems like there's a lot of support, unseen support from that is like moving something forward and making something happen regarding enforcing or defining, tending to the boundaries in your relationship. There's a lot of like forward momentum and action oriented energy that's helping sort of like thrust you forward towards defining those edges. And that may show up because I'm thinking about like the Mars retrograde opposite your sign from December to February. It will go into Cancer as well, but it'll start in Leo, and it will oppose Pluto newly in your sign. And there may be this like, that was so intense, forced, and it might be kind of intense, like this forced like friction moment that like forces you to define your edges because you get hurt, or because something feels hard, or something feels painful, or like triggers something old for you. And then you're like, oh man, now I have to talk about it. You know, like, oh man, there's something sort of forced your hand, or like pushed that momentum forward. Maybe like a little, you know, it's like when you're sort of like kicking around on something, like, I don't know. And then the universe just like gives you the extra push you need. That's kind of what it feels like to me, is you're getting, the unseen hands are actually doing this for you to push you into the circumstances in your connections, in your collaborations, that actually do, go back to the fall shift reading, push you to the next level by forcing you to communicate what happened, or where your boundaries are, or where your boundaries get crossed, and forcing you to kind of like enact a disciplined, committed approach to tending those edges for yourself, which will, I think, inspire others, the people especially that really understand you, to tend those edges with you and not fight you in those spaces. And obviously, like, it can be hard with family. Sometimes they're gonna fight you in those spaces. And like, obviously I wish that wasn't the case, but I think that's an experience that a lot of people have, is your family fighting you on your boundaries. In which case it's just really important for you to tend to yourself and your own edges within that, even if it means like, listen, I gotta go take a nap, everybody. I gotta go off. I'm gonna go to a coffee shop for a while. I'll be back for dinner. You know, like whatever that is. Okay, interesting. But there is like actually a lot of momentum that's pushing you forward and making this happen to inspire you, I think, and the people in your relationships to really further define those edges and tend to them. And the result, of course, is this like much clearer space where you feel you can really relax into belonging by the time the spring comes. Then that's lovely. Okay? Because that's the goal. This kind of togetherness. It's just like, it has to be on the terms that feel good for you. And so that may require talking about where things don't feel good for you. And to that I say, may your voice be heard. And may your edges be tended. And may you feel like you belong. Okay, Aquarius. Thank you so much for joining me for this winter shift reading. If you would like a personal reading where we pull cards and look at the astrology for your year ahead, please do get in touch with me. Members get a discount always. Otherwise, I'll see you in the Discord. We'll pull cards as we go along. We'll watch the readings together. Okay, happy winter and happy birthday, and take care, Aquarius.